Hello, everybody, and welcome to coverage of the second quarterfinals of the Spring Fling Top 8. I'm Michael Hoyp. I'm joined today by Lester Smerling. How's it going, Lester?
Good,
Good.
good.
So we've got a matchup. We got the classic Landstill archetype up against a Welder Survival, and not that Welder Survival is super popular to begin with, but this is a straight red-green survival list that I've never seen in action before. There's Burning Wish as the addition. Normally, I see it with white for Enlightened Tutor, but Cory has forgone the white and just played Burning Wish instead. So I'm really excited to see the Welder Survival deck. It's a deck that has a place in my heart. I really enjoy playing, and we'll see if Cory can overcome the solid blue-white archetype and advance. But let's learn a little bit about our players here. So first we have uh, David Daniel. So he's from Albuquerque, New Mexico. He finished in the first seed for our Spring Fling. The way that the structure was, there's two batches. You play 4 rounds in batch one. In batch two, you play with people who had a similar record. So David went 8-0. Didn't drop a match. I'm not sure how many games he even lost. But he took the first seed. He is playing the Landstill archetype. He said that he's been 20-2 in the last 3 monthlies with this deck, and he's only lost to Stasis because of like Black Vice. And then so he said it struggles against Stasis because of the Black Vice kind of thing, and he said Sly's been close enough to maybe call that matchup unfavorable. He said he got lucky the times that he did play against it. He notes for the sideboard MVPs as Disenchant. He says, "Please stop playing enchantments." So, which we'll kind of touch on that because I think a lot of people have been using seal cleansing in a lot of the blue white land stills, and he has opted for the classic Disenchant. So he said he wanted to combat Oath and land tax decks, and said he took a pretty stock list and wasn't really interested in the Tide package. I know like that's kind of a decision that people, do you just go Standstill and go more the classic control, or do you want a little more proactive plan where you're trying to get rid of the mana and maybe have a few less counter spells or a few less controlling elements? He just wanted to be at instant speed. Didn't want to tap 4 mana on his turn or even spend his early turns tapping to play a CL cleansing, like the instant speed disenchant and kind of that classic Drago act at instant speed aspect of the deck. So that's kind of how we arrived at his list. Would you make any changes? He really wants to play a Teferi's response in the main, because if someone plays against that, then they really have to respect it. And often you're tagging with Mistress Factory, and that's kind of a pivotal part of your game plan. Any exciting moments? He said, the last 2 monthlies, I have killed at least one person with my Standstill trigger, once with her against Hermes Druid and once against Oath. So I guess the games have gone very long, and the point where you're trying to trigger a Standstill, because the way it works is, I don't know if you ever like seen this in action, that the Standstill's in play, someone plays a spell, the trigger of Standstill goes on the stack of like, this is going to get sacrificed. It doesn't get sacrificed right away. A trigger goes on the stack, and once that resolved, it sacrifices and the person draws 3 cards. But you can keep responding to that. So if you're actually like trying to get your opponent to draw 3 cards, it's like a counter fight in some way of like trying to get your opponent to draw cards and resolve a spell first. It's really interesting. For David's hobbies outside of Magic, he plays a lot of instruments, mostly guitar, and he enjoys video games and trying, which he says, usually failing at random sports. And asked why should people root for you, he says they shouldn't. Will and I are definitely the bad guys. Will is playing a Sly list, so the 8-0 lists he said are the bad guys in this tournament. Moving on to Corey Abrams. He's from Casco, Maine. I thought it was funny. I was doing the 2-letter abbreviations for Maine, and I like was about to put MN, like that's not right, and then I was going to put MA. I'm like, that's not right, and I had to look it up. I'm like, I don't know what the abbreviation for Maine is. He finished 6-2, so he's our 8 seed. There were a couple of 6-2s that snuck into the top 8, and Cory was one of them. He is playing that red green survival welder survivalist that I talked about. Says it does well against a lot of the decks, and this version can grind out of a lot of spots and plays pretty well against hate. And it struggles against Goblin Sharpshooter. And he noted his Pyroclasm as his sideboard MVP. He has always loved the survival welder decks, and it doesn't get played much. And I think he had a list from Vincent Fernandez that completely cut white, and he kind of went off of that. It has Burning Wish instead, and he kind of made some adjustments, and he's trying some new things, and he's been doing well with it. Would you make any changes? He said, not yet, as it's my first run with this version or this iteration. And any excited moments? He won through Meddling Mage on Survival, Meddling Mage on Burning Wish, Engineered Plague, and Goblin. I guess that Engineered Plague on Goblin, and then Phyrexian Furnace. I think it wasn't clear to me when I typed that up if that was all in one game. I guess it was not in one game. So a lot of hate, that different kinds of hate or situations that he's found ways out of, not all in one situation. His favorite hobbies outside of magic are outdoor activities with the kids, hunting, fishing, landscaping, playing on the tractor, and working on my 76 GMC Boogie Van. I can't picture that what it is. I guess I should have looked that up. Do you know what that is without looking at Lester?
No, I have no idea, to be honest with you.
I picture some kind of, I don't know, 70s band kind of thing. So, but why should people root for you? I'm clearly the underdog, and I may be in this matchup. I don't know. I feel like things might line up okay, but I mean, his deck is probably one of the more rogue ones in the top 8, and I think he'll have some fans rooting for him because of that. So, all right, let's quick talk about the decks. I'll bring those up, and where are we at? Okay, so here we have the Landstill list. So this is pretty classic. We'll probably talk a little bit less about David's list since it's something we've seen more of in pre-modern. The 2 disenchants are in the main, and there is a dismantling blow. So I think it's pretty stock to have 2 disenchant type effects. He has 3 in the main, and he does have 2 additional disenchants in the sideboard. So a lot of that instant speed, instant removal that he's looking at. Other than that, I think everything is like pretty stock in this list. Is there anything that like really stands out? I mean, a Wing Shards is a card in the sideboard I don't always see. I don't know if I'm very impressed by that card, but other than that, I think everything looks pretty normal. Yep. So going to be a lot of draw go here. Standstill is going to play an important part for card advantage, and then hitting your land drops and cycling a big Decree of Justice, countering key spells. So that's David's game plan. We will now look at the red-green Welder survival. So there's Birds and Quirion Ranger. Quirion Ranger is actually like a really important card in this deck because like it helps out under Tangle Wires and Winter Orbs. It untaps Goblin Welder, so you can use the activation multiple times. Quirion Ranger does a lot of work in the list. Beyond that, there's it is a survival deck, so you do have some squeakies and whatnot. There's an anger. There's a Bloodfire Dwarf, which is a way to deal 1 damage to all creatures, which is not an inclusion I've seen ever before. And then there's Genesis. If the game goes long, you kind of recur your threats. But there's kind of a big artifact package, obviously because of the Goblin Welder. But Tangle Wires, Scroll Racks, which I haven't seen, maybe in some of the list. The Sabu's Web, which is a neat one that can shut down non-basic lands, which could be a role player in this matchup. I guess it only shuts down the Mishra's Factory because they have to do something other than like tapping for mana. So maybe like a Dust Bowl or a Mishra's Factory can get caught under that. There's some Shield Spheres as a cheap artifact, usually for some Welder shenanigans. Triskelion is a way that actually when you have Welders getting going, like that can deal a bunch of damage pretty quickly. And Phyrexian Colossus is just like a big creature. If there's no Swords of Plowshares, that'll hit pretty heavily. So the Burning Wish packages is kind of so there's Call of the Herd, Pyroclasm, Reverent, what's the name of it? Reverent Silence, Raffello's Gift, I think, Gamble, Tremor, and Hull Breach. So a little package there, and then he's got some creatures in the sideboard and some naturalizes. And there's Pyroblast, Naturalize, Sharpshooter, and Uktabi Orangutan. So if you had to guess, who do you think's advantage in this matchup?
I would think Landstill all day is advantaged.
Okay, I think it's actually pretty close. I think like there are a decent number of threats, and like Goblin Welder is a card that you pretty much have to respond to. It's gonna sneak under counterspells, and then like that makes a card like Tangle Wire, like it's awkward if you're countering a Tangle Wire and there's a Goblin Welder in play, and if the game like there's some you can get some really interesting shenanigans with Welder and Tangle Wire and or Tasabo's Web. You can kind of churn through your deck. I think it's a little closer than maybe um, you're leading on. So, all right, I'm ready to jump down the match unless there's anything you want to talk about right now.
No, we're good.
Okay, I'll jump down, and you want to let our players know that they can begin. On the left, we have David Daniel. He's the Landstill player. He will be on the play since he is our higher seed. We are playing a best of 5 today. So the first 2 games will be without sideboard. And then at the start of the 3rd game, they will look to their 15 cards to improve their matchup. All right. Mulligans. Did we see? I didn't notice that players had mulligan. So
I think Cory might have mulliganed.
okay. I think in general his deck is probably a little bit more likely to mulligan, since he's kind of looking for certain things, and like survival is a pretty key card to resolve. He does kick things off with a first turn Birds of Paradise, and then David just has another land go. He starts off with a Coastal Tower, which is always a nice one on the first turn that you can kind of. I mean, the mana is good in the blue white deck, but the always having that like free, pain free source of blue and white is nice. Yeah, Winter Orb is definitely a card that you're able to land it in a right spot. Landstill is pretty mana hungry, so if Cory might be looking to resolve that one. Because I think I didn't see that on the deck list. That is in his list, right?
I didn't see it.
Okay.
Survival is also huge.
Yep. That one meets a counterspell, so.
Oh. Yeah, I do not see a Winter Orb.
Interesting. He does get to resolve a Goblin Molder, so if there's no Swords of Plowshares here, then kind of like if the artifact threats like Tangle Wire or Tasabo's Web, those are a little bit more problematic. So I guess he doesn't have any artifacts right now in play to weld out.
There's the Tangle Wire.
Let's go for the Tangle Wire.
It's slightly less scary when you got Disenchants
That's
than
true.
if you have Seals.
Yeah, though I mean, like with a Welder in play, like Disenchanting a Tangle Wire is not ideal.
Yep.
I mean, it might be something
Blow.
you do, especially when you're not seeing another artifact. Looks like he has a Dismantling Blow, so the expensive version of a Disenchant is used. But we do have the Goblin Welder staying in play, so if there's future artifacts, then we might see some shenanigans going on.
We could potentially see a Wrath here since he's searching right away.
Yeah, this seems like a board that I mean would merit a Wrath. I mean, I do think that Goblin Welder is a pretty substantial threat, and it's nice to pick up a Birds of Paradise too. Yeah, it looks like Cory is anticipating that Wrath if it's not been verbalized by David. Yes, there it is. So.
Yep.
Hey Jared, how's it going? All right, so David's done a good job of kind of answering the initial threats from Cory. We saw Goblin Welder, Survival of the Fittest, and a Tangle Wire all get responded to. We do see a Burning Wish now here, so I mean, like, don't know what his like go-to card would be in this matchup. I mean, he noted like Pyroclasm's really good, but like obviously this is not a matchup where Pyroclasm would shine.
What does the gift do? Does the gift get stuff back? I think it does, right?
I think so. Let me try and pull it up. I think it's from Urza's Destiny. I think you have to like reveal green cards and reveal any number of green cards from your hand. Return an enchantment card from your graveyard for each card revealed this way. So I guess it's a way to get back survival. Is there any other enchantment that
I wouldn't think so. So he actually got the Call of the Herd there, but
okay.
Yeah. So I guess Rafello's gift is potentially good there. I guess he could have gifted there, but then he couldn't actually land the survival, so call is probably just better.
Well, it also he might not have another green card in his hand right now, so he might not want to like get the gift and then just kind of wait around for forever.
That's true.
He might think, hey, I'll get some elephants and maybe apply some pressure. I mean, like the elephant does a pretty good job, like because usually like Mishra's Factory is a way you can kind of deal with smaller creatures, but the Mishra Factory just trades with the 3/3 at best, unless there's multiples. So you see David trying to refill with a Factor Fiction. There is a Swords, Standstill, Coastal Tower, Standstill, and another Wrath. So a pretty juicy Factor Fiction. Uh, I mean, how you split this is, I mean,
You-
yeah, I guess it depends on like how important you think like this token is. Um, just
Would
maybe
you
give
ever
him
go
a Wrath.
standstills or no?
Oh, okay. Yeah, because the Wrath is pretty clunky, and then you just like leave one in play.
Yeah.
But the Swords is a nice answer, at least for one half of the Call of the Herd. So
See, I
he
think
took
he could have
two.
gotten away with.
Go ahead.
I think he could have gotten away with 2 standstills or no.
Okay.
He just gave him a free land, I think, but
I
I
think
still
I
think
would
that's
take
the
the
right
3 card
split.
pile if that land was there. I mean, like I don't know how big of a deal that land is, but um, like the second Standstill is not great. Like the first one
No.
is really like the good spot there. But okay, so we do see the Swords on the token.
I do think standstill players overvalue standstill though.
Okay.
But this is like a dream scenario for him now. He's definitely gonna get 3 cards.
Yeah. So now we're in the interesting situation of where he's going to try and navigate a spot of when do you break the standstill? Do you do it immediately? Is there kind of a spot that you can kind of set up? Because one way of dealing or combating it is do it when David has a bunch of cards in hand, so that he's going to have to discard anyways.
Yep.
But looks like he just does it with the flashback the token, which yeah, I think that's fine. You saw that the Wrath and the Swords were gone. But oh, mana leak. Okay, so he did have mana up. I didn't realize that there's still mana leak mana available. All right, so I just talked about how the second standstill is not that great, but that sequence was pretty good, I guess.
I don't think that if you drew up how to play a blue-white deck, I think this is exactly what you'd want so far.
Yeah, I mean,
Answer
like
everything,
Dave's
refill your
had pretty
hand.
clean answers to everything. He's had a couple card draw spells with and now has like another one
Yep.
on the board. So yeah, I mean, yeah, here like Cory's breaking the standstill with a Wall of Roots, which I don't think David's particularly worried about.
It does block Mishras, you know. Gets in the way.
What Avery? What?
Yeah, this is definitely not the draw that Cory wanted here.
Is
Having to
it
attack with
clean?
an anger.
Your room clean? Okay, well, you'll have to get it tomorrow then if your room's not clean. Okay.
I go up to 8 cards in hand.
All right, I gotta go. I'm doing something now. Got a cranky child coming bothering me, but. All right, so anger's just like coming in and gonna try and do all the work the hard way.
You probably don't want to block anger and get in the graveyard, so you're happy to just take 2 from it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it also like opens up the opportunity that like David might be able to plow the anger, and then
Yeah.
it's a way to deal with it. So
Yep. Plow is huge. He has used 2 plows and one's. I think he used 2 plows.
well, one got went to the
Factor
graveyard because of the
fiction.
factor of the fiction.
Yep.
I'm just gonna message the players real quick to see if they could use like a phone, so I don't have to worry that I'm keeping track of life total off the whole time.
Old school Triskelion.
A good looking one.
It is.
That is answered with an absorb.
How many times do you think Triskelions would absorb in its lifetime?
Uh, I'm trying to think if they were ever together in like standard.
I'm thinking that they were together with their Mirrodin block, maybe?
No, because Invasion and Mirrodin didn't get there
Didn't
quite,
match.
because Odyssey and Onslaught were in between those. And I don't think Triskelion was in a core set. Um,
Main phase impulse. This is interesting.
I mean, I could see it like in like people playing 5 color that like
Yeah,
Triskelion might get
good call.
absorbed. That's probably like the place that it happened the most. I don't know, or cubes. I don't know.
Yeah, or Commander.
Okay.
Maybe we're not breaking history here. Impulse or impulse?
I mean, at this point, I think if David just finds like a decree of justice, he can put a
Yeah.
pretty big one. Yeah, and Cory just has lands, and that's enough for
He's
him
gonna
to
pack it in.
pack it in. So the control deck did. I mean, like Cory had a good first few turns. I mean, like I do think like if he was able to sneak the welder under counter magic and then had like the tangle white or whatnot. All right, so the second game will still be the original configuration of the decks as we are playing the best of 5. So no sideboarding, things don't change. You're pretty happy if you're the blue white player. I still feel like
I
the
think
survival
so.
deck can sneak out a win in a pre sideboard game pretty easily. So
Like Tangle Wire is always a scary card against control, but I think with his setup, this is like kind of what he wants to play against all day.
okay, yeah, I will say that like the disenchants, like the amount of disenchants that David has does make it more problematic for Cory.
And after sideboard, he gets Disenchants plus Annuls, which is even more scary.
Okay, yeah, things don't get easier,
So
and I don't think there was like any big haymakers out of Cory's sideboard. Pyroblasts are good, but
no,
yeah, it doesn't help against like the disenchantments. So
yeah, I mean he gets naturalized of his own, but that's not really great against him. Yeah,
naturalize the standstill, maybe.
I've seen that happen.
How many
I've
times
also seen,
have more standstills been naturalized, or have more Triskelions been absorbed?
or how many standstills do you think get stifled?
That I could see happening more. I that happened on camera one time, like at Worlds.
I've seen that happen quite a bit.
So yeah.
GP Milwaukee, we walked by a table and there's 3 standstills in play. Psychotog on Psychotog. They didn't, for whatever reason. There was 2 on one side, 1 on the other.
Oh, no one like replenished or something.
No, judge came over and just shook his head, got failure to agree with reality on both players, and walked away.
There were some missed triggers.
Yeah. Yeah, no matter what you do, you're never faster than the standstill is.
I, I don't know. You just got to try harder, I guess.
Right?
Oh no.
But we can talk about Disenchant being better than Seal in this deck because Annul is like a commonly played card,
Yeah.
and your Disenchants can't get annulled now.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, Annul is a main deck card nowadays.
Yeah, it's certainly not embarrassing.
No,
There are a few matchups where it's not going to pull its weight, but the matchups that it's good, it is super efficient, and a lot of times artifacts and enchantments are pretty key parts of a lot of deck strategies. So
right.
chat's saying if Cory had a ruination on the sideboard that he'd be able to fetch that with Printing Wish.
That'd
Yeah,
be sick.
it's a little optimistic, I think, of resolving that one though. Sounds like some people are playing main deck Annul. Other people have faced it in the Spring Fling, so.
Yep.
So Corey's started off with the birds again, and David has an Adarkar Waste. So no coastal tower for him. No, or
Classic
I mean,
battle.
like,
Classic battle.
yeah, and survival. And I don't think pre-board that there's a way for David to do much here. So, and
Nope.
even if there is a disenchant, Corey would at least get an activation out of it, thanks to the birds. So the one thing is, we see a lot of survival decks like when they're in play, they like do something like super busted. Um, the Welder deck is like kind of in between. Like there's some decks that like we saw in our previous quarterfinals where you're just like getting basking root walls and arrogant worms or like squeeze and whatnot. That's like the fair end of the spectrum. And then there are some decks that are like full English breakfast where you just try and like combo kill them out with Volware Shapeshifter, Phyrexian Devour, and Triskelion. That's like super broken, powerful stuff. I would say Corey's like kind of in between. Like a lot of times you can like get anger and like put like a welder and then get welder and a Phyrexian Colossus in the graveyard and you're like dealing 8. That's like powerful but not like broken, or you're like welding in Triskelions and like dealing chunks of damage. So it's like kind of in between where it's powerful but not just like game ending. You need like
It
a
sounds
number of
crazy, but it's still
activations and some
almost
time.
fair.
Yeah.
It's almost fair to do that, like it's not. No disenchant from David, so this could get a little bit crazy.
Yeah, and so that's the Colossus. I was thinking that was a Shield Sphere that was discarded.
Nope. That is one thing, is that this deck doesn't have any infinite combos in it, right?
It's not infinite, no, but
The
there are
spheres are
times
just
that
there
you
for
just like
value.
get like a bunch of advantage.
Yeah.
So here, if you're able to get Mountain, that can, assuming it is another creature, because it might have been better to get Anger first, and then you discard the Anger and then go get the Welder. Then you could weld right away.
I'm gonna guess he's holding either anger or squee at this point.
Okay. And also, you could just be waiting and I'm playing around a card like Mana Leak, or like if
Yeah.
you like, you're not going to cast anything on this turn since you already like got a turn with the survival. It didn't get disenchanted the last turn. You could just be kind of like building up your hand and then like try and deploy multiple Goblin Welders in one turn. So you're playing around a card like Counterspell. All right, looks like he just goes for the Welder and it resolves, and then there's a Tangle Wire. That's going to get countered.
Yep.
Okay, but it's not Hasty Welder. It's just a regular one. I guess there's no other artifact to swap out either. So, but with a survival in play, I mean, like you could just like discard a creature and go get Shield Sphere. So,
Yeah, the opponent having lands and survival is always kind of scary.
yeah, the times that I played this deck, like it does take a number of activations to kind of like set up shop with the survival, probably more than some of the other decks. He does have a Gaia's Cradle, so that's a nice way with the 2 creatures in play that he can get a little boost of mana. Yes, Cory does have 2 Tasabu's web in the main. So that's a nice card that, like, if you have the welder shenanigans going on, you can just kind of weld it in and out and kind of churn through your deck a little bit, since it does draw a card when it comes into play.
Now we're gonna get the shield sphere, you think?
Might get a squee. But yeah, then squee, then shield sphere. Probably what I'm thinking. And just put the tangle wire in play. And then you can weld out the tangle wire. So if, let's say it's Cory's upkeep and there's a tangle wire with 4 counters on it, if he welds it out, like after the trigger's already happened, does he have to tap anything?
I think he still does.
Okay, it's however many counters were
Because the
on it.
trigger goes on the stack.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. So. I guess that it would apply for like David's perspective and like with disenchant, that if you were to disenchant it with a trigger on the stack, does it still resolve?
I think he still has to tap.
Okay.
So you got swords on the welder, I'm gonna guess.
Yeah, the thing though is like there's a squee in the graveyard, and there's, if the survival stays, then you can just go get another one. It's only 1 red mana to commit, so it looks like we're activating the Gaia's Cradle. Since there's 3 creatures. Is that a Bottle Gnomes?
It is a Bottle Gnomes, the OG.
Yeah,
That is
Gabe,
a
we
card
weren't
that has
arguing that
fallen
if
from grace.
the tangle wire wasn't there at the start, at like the beginning of a turn. We're saying if the trigger goes on the stack, then what happens?
Can we just talk about how at one time Bottle Gnome was like the best anti-slide card of all time, and now nobody plays it?
You still,
It was so good, other slide decks played it.
yeah,
Like,
that. I mean, to be
it was
fair,
the trump.
it was like standard. It wasn't like an extended format. I don't think people played it in extended. What is the best like anti-slide card?
Of all time.
No, just like in pre-modern.
Oh. I still think Cop Red.
Okay.
That's what I think, at
I mean,
least.
like, I don't even feel like there's just like one card that just like completely shuts it down. I don't know.
Worship is pretty sick.
I mean, I think it's Ravenous Baloth, but I don't know.
Yeah. At least you can race with that.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you have to watch Landstill with decks. You start talking about other decks.
We got a
Right?
swords on the shield sphere. So couldn't we use the welder in response there?
I think so the original welder got swords. This is the replacement welder. I'm gonna guess one is on the stack. This sphere got swords.
Oh, okay. I have not been
Yep.
paying
And now we
attention
got
enough.
Wrath.
So
It's fine.
yeah, I might have the life totals like way off at this point, but
Yep.
it's kind of a matchup where not really the biggest thing. Oh, we do have a Wrath of God, so
Yep.
figuring
And then
out.
we got a very stocked graveyard with Gigapede, Genesis, Squee.
Yeah.
You can kind of get it all back, I think.
I also would like to see, like, with some survival activations for Kieran Ranger to get get in that mix.
Yeah,
So I don't know. You look at the list for Cory if he has one squee or two.
he
Which
has
this is
one.
definitely a situation where having multiple, I think, would be beneficial. You're really churning through some card advantage.
I'm pretty sure he has one. I'm gonna check though.
Okay.
Yeah, one squee.
Yeah, I definitely. I don't know the last time I played this if I played two copies or just had like one on the sideboard. For the matchups that I expected to be a little bit grindier. It also kind of like you don't have to put everything in the graveyard at once, and then you can kind of, if they use like a Tormod script, that you can kind of come back and do it again later.
So we did not use Genesis there, correct? Just return the squee.
Yeah, just given by the amount of mana that's tapped, I think that's the case.
Yep. So what's the scariest creature we have for 3 mana?
Um,
We already got rid of Bottle Gnomes, so that's off the table. I can't see the green cards.
yeah, they for 3 mana, it's not very
Yeah.
it's not very scary. Yavimaya Elder.
There we go. At least we get 2 in.
I mean, if this game's gonna go along like a long time, having just extra mana is pretty good. Like, the, especially from building from like a board state from zero, uh, the deck can be pretty mana hungry.
Bam. We can start doing some Genesis shenanigans too if we get real deep on mana. What do you agree with the no parallax tide builds?
Um, I mean, I think the theory that David has, like, it makes sense. Like, if like I think it's a very reasonable saying of like I want to play an instant speed game and
Right.
not tap mana on my turn. Um, I can agree with that. I have not played that much with or against the Tide still lists, so my gut tells me that I just like the classic Standstill version, but it's not really based on anything. What about you?
I think no tide is right. I think that once gushes got discovered and became as popular as they are now, I think tide lost a lot of its value.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
some of the things you talk about, like with Annul being more prevalent, like that's kind of
yeah,
annoying. Or just like Mono Blue Stifle not being popular, like Tide is not really a card you want against them.
yep.
Ooh, we got a Gigapede. That
Gigapede
is,
just got leaked.
he'll come
However,
back.
that is a forever problem.
Yep, Gigapede.
He does David does not have humility, right?
He
Or no,
does
he
have
has
one.
one.
Yep,
Yeah.
Gigapede is a sweet one. Can do that
It
over and
is.
over and over, and it might be something that Cory is interested in doing. So we're getting back, not getting back Gigapede right there. We're paying 3 to get back a Welder, and then this week came back to hand.
David's down with 2 cards in hand. He doesn't have the refills.
No standstill trigger or the fact perfection that we saw in the first game.
Yep.
Okay, was asked, does Cory have enchantment removal on the side? He does have naturalizes.
Renaturalize.
If
And
he's
Hull Breach.
he does have access
Or
to
Hull
Hull Breach
Breach.
in the main because of Burning Wish.
Yep.
He's not completely cold to a card like Humility. All right, Yavimaya coming in. That guy in there get in there last turn? Probably.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing on David's
Yeah.
life total. It looks like he backs it up
David's
at.
packing it up.
Yep, he's got to the point where he just must not have the interaction that he needs and feels like Cory is just going to be able to outclass him at that point. I mean, like if the survival is sticking on the table, and you get that many activations, then obviously the survival deck is at an advantage. So, all right, now we get to talk about sideboard. So, let's jump over to the decks again. I
We'll
have
do David.
Cory's list up. So, three Pyroblast. That card seems something that I might consider. Three Naturalize. I don't think I'm really interested in Naturalize. Like the one Humility is, I don't think worth it.
I don't think that it's good for naturalized, but the opponent does have Crypts and Furnace.
Okay.
So maybe you don't want naturalized, but maybe you want the Uktabi instead.
Okay. There's a Sharpshooter, and then the other cards are all sorceries. So I think those are typically they stay in the sideboard as they are Burning Wish targets. I mean, I could see because Reverent Silence is also a way to get rid of enchantments.
Yeah, I see short all
I
enchantments.
guess it's not like you really want one of those. I would say like I could see in some matchups that you bring in one of those just so you can draw it, and then you could still wish for the other one. But I don't think this is a matchup where you really want multiples of that effect. Um,
There's a
other
chance you just side out Burning Wish and just bring in the stuff you want too. I mean, that's always an
okay,
option.
yeah, because I mean in this matchup, uh, that actually might be pretty good. Like I'm not that excited to Burning Wish in this situation.
No, so just like having like Call the Herd, having
I guess it depends on how important he thinks. Like he does know David has like a number of enchantment removal spells. Like going
yeah.
up on Disenchant, it's more likely that a survival gets countered or removed. That maybe the Raphael's Gift is more an important plan. So that seems like the card that seems like the most important. Um, I mean the Bloodfire Dwarf I think can come out, and the Bottle Gnomes.
Yeah, those are probably all there.
I mean, artifact creatures, just artifacts in general, have some value because of Goblin Welder. So, um, someone could make a defense of saying like I keep the Bottle Gnomes in just because I want that mass of artifacts to draw. Um, but beyond that, like yeah, I don't know if the survival or the excuse me the burning wishes if they stay in or go out. I mean, I think I would take out Burning Wish and bring in Pyroblast. Then bring in Octavia Orangutan for a Bloodfire Dwarf. Probably that's what
And
I would do.
bringing Call a Herd for the gnomes, the Bottle Gnomes.
Okay. And then
So I think
looking,
Call is fine against this deck.
yeah, it's fine. So there's three copies of Annul. That seems good. Hydroblast. Are you interested in Hydroblast in this matchup? So it gets rid of Welder. In theory, could counter a Burning Wish. If that's staying in. But the red cards are not the. I mean, Welder is a good one, but
Yeah.
it doesn't deal with. I don't think I bring it. I mean, it would fight Pyroblast. That's the other thing, I guess. Tormod's
It
Crypt.
gives you 7 answers to a welder though. Then you get 4 swords, 3 pyroblasts or hydroblasts. So it does give you an answer.
What cards do you think are
I
bad in the matchup? I mean, none of the cards really seem bad.
no, I could see just not one absorb just because it's 3 mana.
Hmm.
Um, I could see kind of the same thing with forbid. Um, I
Yeah,
think
I
you could
guess
definitely
like
want. Go ahead.
I would say like you might trim down on permission. I mean, especially if you're bringing in cards like Annul that are you might just be
Yeah,
cutting cards like Mana Leak and whatnot, and play a much more reactive game. Okay, the survival is going to resolve, and I'm just going to destroy it rather than hope that it gets countered, kind of thing.
yep.
But yeah, it's
I definitely think you want the crypts and the furnace in there.
yeah it, and then the disenchants I think are pretty valid. But I don't know what cards you cut. Like it, do you ever cut just like impulse just because you feel like your deck is pretty redundant?
I don't think you ever cut Impulse myself. I'd be much more apt to cut the Mana Leaks, the Absorb, and the Forbid myself.
I mean, we're talking about bringing in 3 Annul, 2 Tormod Crypt, a Phyrexian Furnace, 2 Disenchant. That's 1, 2,
8.
8 cards. So
There's a chance that you may not want all 3 of your decrees though too. There's a chance you might go down to 2 decrees.
I would say if I'm taking out my impulses, I'm definitely leaving all 3 in. But maybe uh, if you are, I don't know, that decrees just kind of seem like your way to close out a game. You kind of
What
need
if the
that.
red green deck just brings in Sharpshooter just to get you decrees?
I would say it was something I thought about. I
Could
didn't
happen.
verbalize it, but that I mean, is Bloodfire Dwarf better at doing that for like 2 mana instead of 3? And
No,
the
because
Bloodfire Dwarf doesn't need haste.
yeah, I mean that's not as cool.
Well, and it plays better around like Plow.
That's true.
Um,
I mean the Sharpshooter is I actually like Sharpshooters against control decks. You can randomly plink off Faerie Conclaves or Mishras.
yeah, and
I
just
never
like
hate it.
certain, I mean, the blue white might not be like the best case because Wrath of God's like the only way that creatures die. I mean, it count combat, but like swords exile
Yeah.
stuff. So like, yeah, you can just chip in damage. And I mean, I'm not sure.
He
Does
does
Goblin
have the
Welder like would that trigger
if a creature goes.
the exchange target artifact a player controls? I don't know if that's considered like a dying, like a death trigger for Goblin Sharpshooter.
Oh, good call. But you can untap it with the Quarian Ranger too, or
That's true.
Quarian Elf.
Yeah.
Essentially, we should just always side in more goblins. This is really the answer. Just get them in there.
Just make your deck closer to a slide deck or a Goblins deck
Yeah.
as you can. That's
Make David need the side in his cop red.
I always liked the dwarves when I was like little. When I played in Odyssey, I felt like dwarves were like honorary goblins. I mean, they kind of like because
They've
Odyssey
always
had like
teamed
the
up.
alternate tribes, and that's basically what it
Yeah.
was. All right, looks like
I mean, the
Corey.
original slide deck had the Nambo of the dwarves and goblins, or whatever, right?
Oh yeah, in standards, you have the Odyssey and Onslaught. So Corey did mulligan. He put a card on the bottom, and Dave's gonna kick things off with a coastal tower, and then Corey has a Goblin Welder, not a Bloodfire Dwarf.
Still turn 1 goblin though. We're cooking.
Yeah,
That is much scary though, because now whatever artifacts can impact twice.
yep. It definitely makes counter magic awkward.
Yep.
So David just plays an Adarkar Waste and passes, and then Corey's gonna go for a
Yeah.
Wall of Roots. Is this ever something that you're interested in countering?
I don't think so. Not personally.
The Goblin's getting in there, so
Boom.
he's not Weldon. He's a soldier today.
Yeah. Like he might went to school to become a welder, but he's still a goblin at heart.
Yep. Impulse
Oh
any
yeah, the
turn for
impulse is
David.
still in.
Seems like we have some viewers cheering for Corey. They're trying to give him support. He was able to take a pre-sideboarded game. I mean, like, do you feel like one player got a bigger edge by access to the sideboard? I feel like they both improved,
I
and it's kind of close. I don't know. I guess
yeah.
it
I mean,
depends
I
on
think
how well
David's deck
the.
might have been really. But
I would say like if Tormod Script, how big of a player that is.
yeah, I think David's deck might have been really good pre-sideboard. Um, I think it just depends on what kind of game plan you have. Scroll rack. See, this is why everybody wants scroll rack banned. Look how good it is right now. I will say a survival scroll rack is a pretty
Yeah, I
insane
mean, like
combo.
it's a good way to shuffle, and like you're getting squeezed back, you can
Oh,
gain an advantage.
no attacks. Huh. Why didn't we attack there?
Wing Shards.
Oh.
No, I don't know. I mean,
Oh.
maybe it's just playing around. No, I don't know.
He should have attacked before he played the scroll rack. He would have only had to sacrifice one goblin then. At 2? Yep.
I think it's 3 cards.
Is it?
The black sleeves do make it a little difficult, but
Yep. You haven't lived till your opponent's scroll racks for 11, keeping 7 cards back. That was, you know.
I just remember one of the Misty Mountain tournaments where Sam Black just like said, "I'll score rack for this many," and like it was
Yeah.
he clearly had more cards in his hand than he did in his deck because he had triggered land attacks like 3 times in one turn.
Yeah.
So. We do have a swords Plowshares on the goblin, so he went from a welder to a soldier to a farmer. So.
So David must be a little bit land light here. He's not cracking the fetch.
Yeah, and this is his 4th turn, so
Yep.
he hasn't played a 4th land yet.
He's gonna be casting Furnace here, I think.
Yes.
Yep.
This is a good spot. I mean, like if David's able to kind of exchange resources and slow Cory down, then the furnace grinds away at those, and you don't have that inevitability of the cards that he kind of did. The Gigapedes and the Genesis and the Goblin Welder is a lot less effective. So, see a Krosan Tusker getting cycled, so he will get a land and another card. Krosan Tusker is a little clunky in this deck, but it's really important to have the mountain because of the anger. In a lot of matchups, the haste is super important. Like hasty welders and whatnot are just so much different than ones where you have to play them and pass. So it's a card that I didn't particularly like, but it's kind of a necessary evil.
Scrack for 4 here, you think?
Yeah, I mean, there might be certain cards that you would want to hang on to. I don't know. I mean, like it depends on. I mean, like Cory could have a card like Survival, and he's just trying to find a Pyroblast kind of thing. Then you could be saving one card or whatnot, or it depends on like really how he thinks this game is going to go. I mean, one thing that's nice for Cory is that David missed his 4th land drop, so if the game kind of just keeps going, then David isn't really progressing because the Landstill deck is definitely going to want to have a bunch of lands in play because of Decree of Justice or Counter Wars, and if he's not able to hit his mana, then in theory Cory should be able to eke out an advantage with like Scroll Rack.
The Tango wire comes down. What's Sabo's web? Does that make the land not able to be used?
If like a Flooded Strand were to be tapped, it would not untap. Is that what you're asking?
That's what I thought. Yep.
Yeah, basically, if it has an ability that
Don't untap. Yep.
if it has an ability that if it
Doesn't
has
produce
an
mana.
ability that doesn't tap for mana, then it won't untap. And so the tapping and sacrificing is that ability. That would be a really interesting sequence. I mean, like, and that would be very punishing for David if Cory's able to get to Sabu's web and play after this Tangle Wire taps down like a Flooded Strand. I think David might have to like just crack this fetch, just in anticipation of that.
It could definitely be something a lot of people just don't think about.
Yep.
Because you're still land screwed, and you're like, I can just sack it later.
Yeah. Why cast Welder now? Because he doesn't have an anger, so I think he wants to have use of it next turn.
He's also protected from Wrath of God here now too, and he's got another permanent to tap. Because David can't Wrath him.
Also, like if this Tangle Wire resolves, then the Phyrexian Furnace would be tapped, so he's gonna have an opportunity where. Oh no! So this Tangle Wire never resolved. Is that?
It got countered, yeah. Oh, disenchanted actually.
All right.
So now we can still weld it though later
But there's a
if we survive the
furnace.
Wrath.
Still the furnace, so that Tangle
Oh
Wire
yeah.
goes by no haste from the Goblin Welder, so it's gone.
David hit land. He's sitting up in his chair, more active. How many Welder roots does he have? Does he have the full 4 or just 1?
Let me look at. Let me find it. He has just one Wall of Roots.
Okay.
That's 4
I think that's the
birds,
right number.
3 Carrion Rangers, 1 Wall of Roots, 1 Fyndhorn Elves, Krosan Tusker, Yavimaya, Elder, Gigapede, Genesis, Bloodfire Dwarf, Squee, Anger, 4 Welder, and then Shield Sphere, Bottle Gnomes, Colossus, 2 Triskelion. Those are the creatures. See. I mean, there's still a Scroll Rock in play for Cory, so like, ooh, and he can put more cards in his hand because of the Carrion Ranger. Looks like that's what he's doing.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah.
Yep. You gotta think David got something. He doesn't have lands for sure, so he's got something.
Yeah, I think he had said that he had 5 cards in hand.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, again, if we're just sitting in the spot and David's not like developing his mana, I think Cory is more benefited to play patiently and like not just try and like resolve a survival if he doesn't have anything back up. Like I think he wants to cast multiple threats in a turn and really take advantage of that way because David's mana is going to get tied up. He's got more spells than lands, and Cory's able to just restock his hand, build it up, and then like get a really good like keep scrolling and find really what he wants. So I think patience would be beneficial for Cory here.
He can't be too patient though, because otherwise he's gonna run into Wrath of God.
Yeah, but I think it's almost worse of just like trying to go like one threat at a time, and then it gets countered and exiled because of the Phyrexian Furnace. Like
Yeah.
that just almost seems more problematic. All right, Wooded Foothills is found, which is
Ooh,
notable because it's a shuffle effect for the scroll rack.
that's 5 or 6. What we got? We got swords.
Yep.
What do we get?
I
I think we
mean,
get the ranger.
you could make an argument for the Ranger or the Welder. I think the Ranger is a little bit more effective because you have that Furnace and there's not too many cards in the graveyard.
Yep.
But I wouldn't fault anyone for just trying to get rid of the Welder.
There is a ranger.
Yep. Yeah, I like that. But Cory isn't like unhappy necessarily to get that card exiled.
No.
It's like he's got more in his deck if he needs it, like if he's starting in a survival chain and it's not like a key piece.
Now we're disenchanting the scroll rack.
That seems good. Then we're more at a point where uh, Cory might have to be a little bit more proactive in terms of what he plays. So he's going to use the Wooded Foothills so that he's shuffling. I guess he'll get one more activation with the scroll rack.
He also gets another card in the graveyard for the furnace.
Yeah, that does buy him. It. I mean, it's since. Oop, David's refreshing. He'll probably join real quick. Yeah, so we'll kind of just wait around. I think David either is refreshing or had some internet issues. Jump over here real quick. Oh, okay.
We're back.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. What
You
the
will have
fuck
to mute us
happened.
again, just so you know,
Oh,
David.
yeah, yeah. Sorry. Okay. Muted.
Okay. So, yeah, though in the spot, like you can end a turn, use the furnace, get rid of the land, then untap and use it to get rid of the scroll rack. So just scroll racking for 3. So I think the full option is 5 or 6 cards, but Cory just went for 3. All right, Disenchant resolves, the scroll rack goes away.
It's furnace.
David does find, I think that's his 5th land. He'll use the furnace again, get rid of the scroll rack. And now we're in a spot. I mean, David's got a grip full of cards. And like Cory does not have like a super intimidating board presence. And I mean like if you just took the Phyrexian Furnace out of this equation, then I would like Cory's position a lot better. But I think that Furnace is actually like kind of problematic in this situation where it feels really bad to get certain spells like countered and then exiled.
So we're gonna fight over the standstill, which is surprising to me.
Uh, it's not super surprising to me. I mean, like, what else are you using this Pyroblast on then? I guess like a counter, like you're jamming a survival and then using it as a counter backup.
Yeah, well, so the situation here is that you're playing Standstill into an opponent that actually has a creature. The Welder can start getting in.
I mean, there's a limited amount of damage that the Welder can do. Like, there's going to be a Mishra's Factory or Decree Justice at some point.
That Welder can do 20 damage. I have faith in it.
I think he's only got to do 18. So.
I'm not sure why we're not attacking with the Welder every turn.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's been that many turns where Cory didn't attack, or have there been? I mean, like, I also might just have David's life total wrong.
I think there's been at least 3 or 4 turns where we haven't gotten in with it.
Okay. I mean, I will say, if he's playing around like a Decree of Justice, if that was an exchange that David would be willing to make a token and block, the deck usually does, like, when it does win, it's kind of like, it's usually not like because of 1 point of damage. It usually kind of sets up attacking with Triskelion and dealing big chunks and whatnot, and so maybe Cory is just really valuing keeping that Welder around and doesn't want it to get removed. Tanglewire is how we're going to break this Standstill.
Well, David's definitely got Counterspell, I think. But there's Annul, actually.
It's interesting that how many of the important threats Annul gets. I guess it doesn't get Welder,
Yeah.
but like it gets Tanglewire, it gets Tesabo's Web, it gets Survival. All right,
Got him.
Welder's now attacking. So. All right, Mishra's Factory has entered the chat, so I think the God Welder's going to go back to being passive and not attacking. The way this game played out, do you think Cory's going to look at a sideboard and say, like, maybe I do want a card like Naturalize?
I mean, the Furnace is a giant pain. I think it's a bigger pain than Crypt always is.
Yep, I do.
For Cory, at least.
I mean, there are certain board states, like if the game goes long and then you have like a Furnace when you already have 8 cards in your graveyard, then obviously it's not good. But like the way this game played out in early Furnace and trying to exchange resources and then always getting it stuck, like always getting it removed, it's staying on the battlefield and still doing its job, and eventually being able to replace itself is really, really good.
Yep. I think that you definitely, if he doesn't have the Octavian, you definitely put the Octavian at this point.
All right, so David is going to cycle a Decree at the end of turn. He's going to put 3 soldiers into play. And he's got a claw.
I mean, you can randomly get a Mishra with a Naturalized too. I don't know how often that's going to be a winning play, but
That's true. Yeah, I'm not. I would not be surprised if I have David's life total wrong. So
the wall reminded everybody that he doesn't just produce mana; he can block too. People forget about that.
So the primary function of a wall, I would say.
Yeah. The soldiers got a rude awakening.
Except for Tinder Wall. That wall is not. That one's not meant for blocking. Even though I did get you that one time.
Yeah, with that ability.
Yeah.
Fyndhorn Elf. Or blocking with the elf.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really do much else, so.
Huh. So Cory's in bad shape here.
Yeah, I definitely don't like his position. I'm trying to think even like what would need to happen because David has like the graveyard shenanigans on lockdown thanks to Phyrexian Furnace and Tormod's Crypt. You have to imagine his hand is like pretty good because he missed land drops for a number of turns. Yep.
I think
So Cory
so
shows
he
her hand. We
scoops
do
it up.
see a naturalize. So
Yep.
we were kind of considering whether that was a card that Cory was bringing in. So David goes up a game, so he just needs one more in order to win this match. Cory looking to go back to back to advance to the semis.
A lot of scoops happening here that I went to scoop that.
I mean, I don't know what percentage it is, but I mean, like, obviously, David's definitely like winning in that spot, like in a winning position.
He's only got one extra soldier. You still got a wall and a goblin.
Okay.
I mean, he does have the Mishra, I guess, but you got naturalized, so he could have drawn Colossus at any point, slammed it down. I think so. I know that's the whole Bane. That's the whole combo of the deck, right? But that's a pretty clunky card if you're not comboing. So have you ever sided out the Colossus?
Uh, I mean, I could see it in this matchup where because like swords,
Yeah.
like you could
Triskelion just seems better.
you could just try Skillion and then like if they ever try and swords that, then you can shoot them twice and then shoot it once.
Yep.
I don't I don't know how often if I sideboarded it out, but I could see that something that you could do. I mean, it is your like if you do get in a spot, it is probably the way to deal the biggest chunks of damage. I think so.
Yeah, it's the combo, but it's also like if you draw it, you're just miserable.
I mean, you're a survival deck at least that like
Yeah.
you got something to pitch it to. I mean, a
You
lot of the
finally get the
powerful
mana
decks in the
up,
format do have those awkward cards that they draw that
right?
just don't do a lot in a lot of situations. But
You finally get the mana up, you slam it down, your opponent just has one blue and annuls it.
the force
We move
spikes
on.
it. I think there was probably a game where I was worried about it getting dazed, and so it's like I don't know if I'm supposed to cast this guy right now or wait. So
Right? So maybe that's one of the things against Burning Wish is you use up so many sideboard cards when you play like a Burning Wish in these kinds of decks.
well, I do like
Uh,
that like Cory has not committed like the entire cyborg plan to Burning Wish targets. I
right.
think that is something that people
Too
get
many
a
people
little
do.
too ambitious with because a lot of times when I played Wish decks, I get the same two or three cards almost like 95% of the time.
Yep.
And so yeah, I think it's a little overrated to have a really diverse sideboard with wishes, um, because even so, yeah, you do get the same card. So I do like that what Cory's done. He still has cards of sideboard, still is able to get better in certain matchups, and still has access to that wish package.
Do we know who the winner of this goes on to play?
I haven't looked at the bracket. And pull that up as we are waiting.
I think Corey's making some changes.
Yeah, I think he had stepped away for a little bit, so now he's back at the table and shuffling up. So the side of the bracket that the winner of this will play the winner of the match that we covered a couple days ago. So spoilers for everyone. It was McLean Denny against Federico Kleiner, and McLean had won. So the winner of this match will be up against the Hermit Feb deck. I did win a monthly, I think, with 15 wish targets. But like I said, that was a time that I did not wish for very different cards very often, and it was me coming to the realization that, like, yeah, the wish sideboards probably should not be as diverse, and you still want sideboard cards. All right, the light's on for David. I think we had the light off earlier just because I think there's a little bit more glare. So we'll see if.
Oh, David's only got one to go. You gotta turn the light on at this point. Like, we're out of the dark.
Yeah.
Every time I play wishes, I always end up just siding out my wishes and siding the cards I want. Because I'm like you, I always search for the same like 2 or 3 cards. I'm like, I would just rather draw those at this point. Like,
Yeah.
meh.
Then you got the thing about wishes is I always hate when I don't put the card back in the sideboard. Like I burning
Yeah.
wish for a balancing act, and then like the next game I like forget to put it back in my sideboard, and I cast burning wish. I'm like, I'm gonna go get a balancing act,
Yep.
and it's not there. All right, looks like players are drawing up for our fourth game. We're gonna have Cory on the play, and
What's the dream draw here? Just turn 1 mana creature, turn 2.
survive.
Oh, turn 2.
Well, I mean, like it's not even sure that like it resolves because of a card like Annul, like a turn
Oh.
2 survival. But it looks like Cory's sending back his initial hand. I mean, the only problem is like not only does Cory need to resolve a survival, but it needs to stay in play because like David has access to a lot of disenchants. So obviously, if you resolve a survival and it gets disenchanted, you're not in a great spot.
Yeah. I was able to stifle a survival. That's a sick feeling.
Like one activation of it.
Yeah, I called the judge right. I'm like, he does still have to discard, right? Yep. I'm like, yes. Got him. It's like a reverse duress. Like, God, yeah.
Did he have another creature right away?
He did not.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
he died. Like, let's be honest, he just died the next turn because the 12/12 got him. But
Okay.
I made him discard. It was sick. I think every deck should just play 4 stifles just to see what the madness you can do to other people. It's like,
Where everyone just starts with like a stifle in their hand, and then you just gotta like, all right, my first fetch land just gets stifled, kind of thing.
what a great format would that be?
I think people might be playing a few more lands then. 28.
Oh, do you use it?
or-
Do you use it then, or do you use it late game to like just stifle your decree, or like stifle your siege gang?
Sure.
There'd be stifle shenanigans going on.
Stifle standstill trigger.
Yes. Every time I see that happen, I always just chuckle.
I mean, I'll be fair. Before I ever saw it happen, I probably would have thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, did David Mulligan? Because he's got his die on 6, but maybe it's just because it's not a 7-sided die.
That might be.
I don't think he mulliganed. It's a blue-white standstill. It's not just a mono blue list. It's the classic blue-white control. So the main difference that David has is he has more disenchants than most lists. He likes the instant speed there.
So Cory Mulligan twice.
Yeah, that's that's tough because I mean, like, it's already a little bit difficult to resolve your key spells, and like mulliganing, I think, puts them at a pretty heavy disadvantage. Starts off with the Kieran Ranger. Chad has asked, is mono blue land still competitive? I've seen some people play it like with disc and whatnot. It's a reasonable deck, but I think the blue white just probably has your bases covered. Like Swords of Plowshares is a pretty powerful card, and like Disenchant and Decree of Justice I think is pretty good. So I don't think there's much incentive to play the mono blue as compared to the blue white. All right, we got a turn 2 Kieran Ranger. Is there an Annul?
There is not. He would have already done it.
Okay, so Survival has resolved. Will it stay in play? That's the next question. Is there a card like Disenchant?
There is not.
All right, well, the first two kind of hoops that Cory had to jump through, avoiding a null and avoiding a disenchant, he now at least has some mana. I mean, he has at least 3 green mana because of the Kieran Ranger. If he didn't have another land, he could just pick up a forest and replay it after he's floated a mana. So at minimum 3 activations.
I think it's worth noting though, after seeing that sideboard, you really don't want to just dump stuff into the graveyard. I think you want to be careful what you get in there. Definitely getting like Squee would be fine, but I don't think you want to like throw in 2 or 3 cards.
Okay. I mean, there might be. I mean, there are 2 crypts and 1 furnace. I mean, there might be some incentive to put some, like, not super valuable cards like at the bottom. So if furnace is the graveyard card, that like it takes them a while to get up. But
fair.
I think if you're activating survival that many times, you probably should be in a better position than playing for your opponent drawing a Phyrexian Furnace on turn 5. So. I mean, do you think David's like kind of in a spot where he's a little bit worried? The Swords of Plowshares, I think I would target the Kieran Ranger, right?
Right.
I mean, they both make a mana. It targets the birds.
Is David Landlord again?
Fetching on his turn. I think there is a Phyrexian Furnace. That'd be the only spell, right, that I can think of that you cast for 1 mana on your main phase.
Yeah. But with your opponent having survival, that's dicey. Oh.
Nope.
Okay, that was all end of turn.
Oh, okay. So I guess that's an indication saying that he has enough mana. Not looking.
He does have the furnace.
Right, does have a furnace though.
Yep.
And has blue up for any potential thing. But I mean, the survival's staying in play. So
yeah.
If you just go get Utabi or anything, but there's no guarantee that it's going to resolve.
You just have the Hydroblast in your hand then too.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, he's gonna.
Is that a Gigapede? Gigapede gets
That was.
Rest in
so
peace.
I wonder if Cory didn't have another creature, he could have just pitched the second one then. But what is Furnace the bottom card or any card?
Yeah, it's the bottom card.
It's the bottom. Okay.
It's funny, like that's the bottom card, and then the like Scrabbling Claws is any card. So
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big loss to lose your Gigapede there.
I would say like Gigapede, I feel like is the ultimate like good guy. Like,
yeah.
How can you be mad about Gigapede?
You know, people play Gigapede. No one plays Weatherseed Treefolk.
Well, Weatherseed Treefolk, like if it's countered, it's just gone.
You play one of each.
Right? It's only when it dies it
Yeah.
goes back. Yeah, graveyard from play.
Look at that bad boy though. 5/3, 5 mana tramples.
It looks pretty sweet. Yeah.
We should get one. And it comes in gold border.
I did not know that.
Yep, Matt Lindy.
David's got a nice mix of gold borders in his deck.
He
The
does.
lands and the wraths and whatnot. I do like the like 6th edition arts or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, Weatherseed Treefolk was a pretty good card in limited. All right, we see Uktabi Orangutan, but it's met with a counterspell, so that Phyrexian Furnace is going to stay in play,
Yep.
and that is, I think, a pretty big deal. It's not something that Cory can't overcome, but it makes him have to play the game differently. I think he kind of has to wait to a point where he's able to do more in one turn, as compared to like get incremental advantage. Oh, I'm not sure what the life totals are. I've lost track. This Kyrian Ranger has been attacking though. A Standstill comes down, so David still only has 3 total mana.
I do not think you crack the Standstill.
I don't think so either. If Cory, with the survival staying in play, you can get to the point where you're able to kind of, like I talked about, like get a decent mana base and then activate it a bunch in one turn and have a little bit of a cushion for Phyrexian Furnace. This would be a great opportunity to discard the Bottle Gnomes. Put that card. That one can get exiled from the Phyrexian Furnace. You probably just get Birds of Paradise or something.
That card single-handedly made Corpse Dance good, you know? Bottle Gnomes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good things to say about Bottle Gnomes, so.
It gains 3 life. That's about it.
Block every now and then. Block a 2/1.
It's true. It's true. I can't do that.
No, it's not morning. He's in Arizona, so I think it's still daylight for him.
Alright, so we successfully got Tango wired.
Oh, I did say Arizona. Sorry. Yeah, he is in New Mexico. Thank you.
Alright, so this is a situation where Sabo's Web could actually be good again.
Yeah, there's
We want to see it.
I mean, you get one land.
Yeah, we want to see a Web come down. Just one time. Unless David just impulse with a sick Annul just to stop it. Last card, do it. Get him.
So with a Furnace tap, do you think that is this an opportunity where Cory can kind of start like loading up his graveyard?
I think we're past that. I just don't think that's gonna happen, to be honest with you.
So what do you think Cory's doing with the survival then? So he didn't activate it at all at a turn. So he doesn't have a creature in his hand, or he's not willing to, or he's not willing to put anything in the graveyard right now. That's a little bit surprising.
Yeah, either the creature is so good that you can't get rid of it, which I don't know what that would be. Maybe it's your Colossus. I think we're
I
gonna
don't
do
know.
it now.
I don't know. I think I would pitch Colossus in that spot even if it got exiled, just to
Yeah.
go get like a squee.
Genesis something. I mean, if we're Cory, we're really behind right now. Our opponent's got 7 cards in hand. He's hitting land drops every turn. Tangleware is not really even affecting him.
Yeah.
I think that's really the problem with these elf type decks is that the mana is so great, but then once the other deck gets past that, then you're just drawing 1/1s.
There are a lot of 1/1s in Cory's deck.
Yeah. I mean, if you had like Court of Arms to make it worth it or something, you know. Hey, Elf Ball was a deck at one point. It beat High Tide.
About Mercadia's Downfall. Do you know what that card is?
No.
Attacking creatures get +X+0 until end of turn, where X is the number of non-basic lands the defending player controls.
How much does that thing cost
3.
to cast?
It's probably worse than like Trumpet Blast. I don't know. Ooh. People should play Rites of Initiation.
Is that the 1 red discard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That card could make some really exciting kills.
I think that was in the Song of Flood deck.
I mean, people would play this like in Goblin lists at some point.
No.
All right, a second Tangleware has resolved, but I don't.
Okay, so we left Burning Wishes in.
Burning Wish is going to get Hydroblast.
Yep. What could he have gotten even? I guess Call the Herd? Maybe he would have gotten Tremors.
Hull Breach? I don't know. Get rid of the
Oh.
Furnace. I mean, also the other thing is like Hydroblast again doesn't hit that many cards. So
No. Oh, we got the Sharpshooter. No! Of all the things they pitch.
no longer a Goblin deck.
What a single-handedly cleared this board.
All right, discards Anger. There is a Mountain in play, but this you might only have like one kind of shot at this because this might be a card that it might get exiled with Phyrexian Furnace, and then I think like your options get a little bit more limited if your creatures don't have haste.
Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but Cory's deck doesn't have like survival good stuff like Drain, Tremor, or anything like that, right?
There is no Deranged Tournament, no. I mean, that is a card. I mean, like it's more mana intensive. I mean, like obviously the Elves deck play it, but they I think do a better job of making mana. But yeah, I could see having like just in this list like just Anger and just 9 them.
Yep. I mean, eventually, sometimes you just gotta survival for like just good stuff, just a bomb.
And I mean, like there's certain matchups where you just kind of end up drawing a Deranged Hermit on turn 7.
Yeah.
Is a lot better than a lot of the cards. So
yeah. So you
Yeah, I
didn't
agree
stack
you
it
can't like
correctly.
bounce it, but it's not bad to in certain spots to just go wide.
Okay, so let's see if David if he sacks the furnace. He might just have a whole handful of counterspells too.
All right, so survival is discarding squeeze. We know there is a Triskelion in hand.
We don't really have much to get, right? With survival, like, what kind of out of the good stuff?
I mean,
I guess we got. I guess eventually we're going to get Welder here.
Welder,
Oh,
and the Welder can. Yep, that's what
oh,
we're getting.
oh. Priority number one should be to get Genesis so we can get back our sharpshooter, so we can get the pings in.
We could become
This is
a Goblin deck again.
yes.
The Goblin Welder
I,
just doesn't satisfy you.
I should write a primer on this deck. Like, if you ever have to discard it, make sure to get back into your hand as quickly as possible. He's not even trying to furnace it. He respects it. Okay.
All right, so
So
Triskellion's in the
robot
graveyard.
down.
So in theory, a Welder in play would be able to swap a Tangle Wire for a Triskelion. And the nice thing is you do have the Kyrian Ranger that you can untap your Goblin Welder and like protect or switch stuff around.
I got hydroblasted.
So that 2 Goblin Welders got Hydroblasted?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Well, now it's just getting all aggro. Bash for 6, I think.
Was it 2 tokens and
2
2
Mishras.
Mishra's Factory?
Yep. Furnace the sharpshooter. This guy's definitely the enemy now. David is just not a good guy. At least Squee came back. We still got one 3-mana goblin.
It feels weird that like the survival deck has had survival in play for so many turns and still is unable to win.
Yeah, like the difference between being a good stuff survival deck and a combo survival deck is like so different.
Yeah. I mean in general I do think the Welder survival is like a little bit in between.
Yeah.
It does have a higher ceiling than some of the decks that play survival. Humility has resolved. That I think is going to limit Cory's options.
We're still getting the Welder. He's how many cards does he have? Does Cory have?
All right, I'm going to ask a humility question. Anger in the graveyard. Would it still give creatures haste? Let's say it.
Yeah.
But then the natural of all creatures lose all abilities.
I think
They wouldn't have haste because of that, though, right? I guess if
there's a timestamp thing I know. So I think
if humility is in play and then anger got discarded, then the creatures in play would have haste, but the new ones would not.
I think so.
That's my guess. I don't know.
There's times I know that whenever I ask judges, their heads explode and then they explain about timestamps.
Yeah.
So like if something existed before humility, it would turn off, but if something exists after. So I think probably somebody's gonna tell me I'm wrong, but I think that if anger went to the graveyard now, the creatures would have it. I think.
All right, so
Or he just
naturalized got
naturalizes going to work.
countered, and then
Oh.
I think a Welder was played.
Yep. I don't know if there's a more annoying card than Humility for rulings.
I don't think there
Maybe
is.
like Shapeshifter.
Shapeshifter.
I mean, they would make that card online.
I
That's
mean, I
just
remember Mirror Weave. That would probably be like my second choice after Humility, but you remember that one?
Did it make stuff 4/4s or something?
It made all creatures like a copy of what it was of target creature, and
Yeah.
I think it was mostly because of Mutavault that it was complicated. So I guess it wasn't really that bad.
For some reason, I remember Unnatural Selection being a giant pain too at one point.
Okay. All right, there's Humility, Standstill, Tokens, Furnace. I think David has everything kind of on lockdown.
No, Cory's just waiting to get his Hull Breach.
Yeah, my life totals are kind of estimates, so
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll get to the point where combat damage is lethal. Cory might get to the point where he's just ready to pack it in, but we have a Squee getting discarded to survival.
Does it amaze you that David has allowed the Squee to just keep floating up and down? We haven't sacrificed the Furnace yet to get rid of it.
With the Humility in play, I think I'd be much more incentivized to get rid of it. With it not in play, I think it's more defendable. You're kind of worried about some. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's just something you should use. What do you think?
I would have used it a while
A
ago.
while ago.
Yeah, I think. Cory's just discarding these 1/1 birds.
I think he's just thinning out his deck.
No regards for 1/1 birds here.
He's passing up on an opportunity.
Nope, he's getting a 1/1 Chill Sphere.
That guy usually doesn't attack either. That's
No.
I think more Birds of Paradise have attacked than Shield Spheres. I'm pretty confident in that.
So yeah, did I ever tell my drive-by story with Birds of Paradise?
Every time what?
I have the blue guy that can tap down a creature or like ping a guy. Stormscape Apprentice.
Oh yeah.
It's like the day of fires. This kid attacks me like 7 turns in a row with Birds of Paradise. I don't bother like shutting it down. All of a sudden, one turn he's like Might of Oaks, Giant Growth, and I had the white mana the whole time. I was like, oh, that's
You just like make him lose one
unfortunate.
life then.
Huh?
Did you
Yeah.
just make
Take
him
one.
lose one life? Take one.
Yeah. Take one. Oh yeah, Decree.
Yeah, more tokens are added.
Yeah. Does he not have gold border decrees? Are those regular ones?
He has, I think, a mix of.
Okay.
Well, the gold bordered ones are new frame because the last one they did, they made them all with the new border.
For the
The new
Naughton
frame.
deck?
For what?
The Julian Naughton deck?
Julian Nelton and like Wolfgang Eater and Gabe Nassif and
There was the Wake deck too, right?
yep. Oh, so
Yep.
maybe it was 2 years of that.
Yeah, I think there was 2 world champions that played it, right?
Well, because Julian was a champion and Zinc was another champion, and I think both of those
Yep.
have like the newer frame for the World Championship decks. I think it's more he's just I don't think he's padding the graveyard anymore. I think he's just thinning out his deck. But
What
I
are we
guess he
hoping
needs
to
to draw a
struggle?
naturalize.
Oh.
Because it's not like drawing a Phyrexian Colossus or whatever is any different than drawing a Birds of Paradise when there's a humility in play.
Oh, it's a 7-mana 1/1 versus a 1-mana 1/1. Big
Okay.
difference.
Yeah, that's fair.
At this point, like, so if you're David, do you just tell him I got 3 counter spells,
No,
or do you just let him go through the motion?
go through the motion.
Fair enough. So I just respect Sam when he's like, I got 4 counter spells and 3 of these. Do you want to concede? All right.
Does Cory have an angle? I mean, I don't think there's much he can do.
What's up? I mean, yeah.
I mean, I guess it would have to be a naturalized resolving on a humility, right? That's the only way he's gonna win.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just.
I mean, technically, he can get Burning Wish and get Burning Wish to get the Reverent Silence.
Okay.
That's an option.
Yeah, but I think the game has gone on long enough that it's pretty likely that David has a hard counter for something.
If David just forbids with buyback here, I think it's game. Just show him it. Oh, that resolved.
What was the test spell here? What is he?
Tangleware.
Okay.
Oh no, saying annulled.
I would say Tanglewire not particularly great here, but I guess if you got an annul, you might as well use it.
Yeah, it just taps on a bunch of soldiers.
0 mana 1/1. It's a Memnite.
Yep.
Iron Ranger. Okay.
You know, people think we don't have affinity in pre-modern, but right there's a Memnite.
Right. Coastal Tower in play, and creatures are attacking. I think Cory's gonna have to block. He's just attacking with. Not attacking with all of them. What am I missing?
Oh, he's not attacking with the Mishras either.
Yeah, that's fine. I can see not wanting to use your mana, but like, why can't those other two attack?
They got important stuff to do, man. I'm not sure what important stuff they gotta do, but
I don't know what the actual life totals are, so maybe that. But I don't think David's low on life, is he?
I can't imagine. Like, I don't even know what the squeeze doing anymore.
He's just hanging out. That's in the hand, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Okay, so we got another decree. That's
Right.
all 3 of them now.
And that's enough. So
Yeah.
there's a Pyroblast. So I mean, like, if Cory drew a naturalized, then at least he had the hope that it was going to be able to fight through some counter magic with a Pyroblast.
He only had Counterspell and 3 swords. He didn't actually have multiple Counterspells, so there was a chance, I guess.
So yeah, the match does go to the blue-white Landstill. It looks like. I mean, the one thing that's like I guess a little bit disappointing is that survival came down on turn 2, right?
Yeah.
And Cory still wasn't able to find a spot to take advantage. And I think a part of it was just that early Phyrexian Furnace, I think, made a big difference. So I'm going to jump down to the players, and we'll listen in to see if they have anything to say about how the match played.
I just moved my whole sideboard. Almost everything.
Players, can you hear us?
Yeah, what's up, Mike?
Okay. A lot of cards that you brought in. What did you take out? Is it just kind of like you take out some clunkier counter spells, or like?
Yeah, I'll I'll show you. I bring out the dust. The deck plays 26 lands.
Okay.
And he's got Saba's Web, so I feel pretty comfortable taking out Dust Bowls because they're awful against him anyway.
Interesting. I mean that makes sense now that you say it, but like I probably would not have thought about that in the moment.
I had looked at his list beforehand. I had already decided what I was going to sideboard before we played. Kind of the more expensive counter spells come out, like the Absorb and the Forbid. His deck's really low to the ground, so they're pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
The Mana Leaks aren't good for very long, especially on the draw. This is like the worst card in the deck.
Okay.
A Factor Fiction and a Wrath. Just because they're kind of expensive. Oh, God, it's a lot more than that. Yeah, 1 Decree, 1 Standstill. It's a lot of cards.
Yep.
3, 6, 9, 10, 11. 3, 6, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. Yeah, Decree and a Standstill.
Yeah, I guess the biggest takeaway kind of is like that early Phyrexian Furnace, I felt like really changed the way that Cory has to play the game.
Yes. Like the biggest threat to my deck is definitely Genesis and Gigapede.
Okay.
If I can get rid of the Genesis and the Gigapede, the rest of it is kind of I just need time.
Mm-hmm.
The Genesis will just beat me eventually. It's kind of what happened in game 2. Like pre-sideboard, he stuck a survival. I didn't have an answer to it. Like I'm just eventually going to lose that game. I'll run out of cards before he does.
Yeah, I was just surprised like the last game where it's like, okay, we got a survival on turn 2. There's no null. Okay, well he got it past that, and then it didn't get disenchanted, and then that survival was in play the entire game. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
I never had a I didn't draw the Dismantling Blow to that last turn. It's
Okay.
like, but
I
none of
mean-
the cards after the Gigapede went, like it was kind of, it was really unfortunate that was the first creature you drew. Like I think that was the only creature in your hand when you activated survival because he mulliganed to 5 too.
Okay.
So it was like
Yeah.
turn 1 guy, turn 2 survival. So you had like 2 cards, and I think,
Yeah. No,
like
that
not
was-
surviving, not discarding Gigapede is obviously bad. Just waiting for the mana, but discarding it into Furnace is also really bad.
Yeah, no, it was definitely not optimal. No, I mean, in the game before the last one, it's like I didn't see a survival like at all, which obviously it's pretty tough. But I don't know. I didn't think it was going to feel as bad of a matchup as it did, but I
I've
don't
been
know.
drinking a lot
Outside of
Haterade
that
for
second game,
artifacts.
it was just like abysmal.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that was just a mix of like the draws. Like I did mold a 5 twice, and I think I only kept 1 7.
I think I mulliganed a bunch in there too.
Yeah.
My sideboard is very, very tuned to beat artifact and enchantment decks. I'm definitely gunning for Parfait in all of these monthlies. I really dislike that deck because it's keeping me from playing Hypnotic Spectre. So
Fair.
I'm just gonna beat them until they stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Cory, I want to talk about your list a little because it's more innovative than what David's doing, I guess. So
Yeah.
that's fair. But you talked about not drawing survival in this match. So not having the white cards, you have a Burning Wish package, which doesn't help you get survival. Were there a lot of matches that you played where you didn't start off with an early survival and you kind of play a different game plan, or what is your plan B when you don't have a survival?
Yeah, so like I can just play like mid range. I mean, I technically do with the gamble, which
Okay.
I did
Okay.
tutor for survival in a couple matches during the spring fling, you know. So like that's about as good as it gets, not having enlightened tutor.
Okay.
But a lot of times it's like you can just switch into like Call the Herd and just playing like a couple small guys, beat down, still play your mana dorks, and then just, you know, depending on the matchup, just hard cast the Nitro Scallions and start cracking, beat down. The Gigapede gives you like another discard outlet too, if you have to just start getting stuff online with like a Welder without a survival. You kind of just get any target in there that you can kind of start abusing, but obviously it's a lot slower. But kind of done a little bit of everything, but obviously I prefer to have survival, but if not, it's not completely dead, but it's definitely matchup dependent.
Okay. Another question. So the games that you do have survival, the times that I've played the Welder survival lists, I never felt like I knew like a real concrete path of what I should be doing when I do have survival. And like, so is there a consistent pattern that you're always getting Anger, Squee, Welder, Kieran Ranger, Phyrexian, Colossus, Shield Sphere kind of thing? Or like, is it just depend on the matchup, depend on how much mana you have? Are you getting Triskelion a lot? What do you usually do if you have a survival in play?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely like board state matchup.
Okay.
You know, what game, like especially there with like knowing has Furnace and Crypt, it like changes what I want to fetch. But typically, you know, like at least for me anyway, the 99% of the time it's like Squee first. And then I'm just kind of slowly trying to set up to get like Anger, Welder, and stuff in the same turn to just go right into Triskelion, Colossus. But obviously it's hard, like you don't want to overcommit, especially in this, like my two reoccurring creatures that kind of abuse survival would be like Squee, Gigapede. So a lot of times I don't want to have both of them in the yard at the same time because one, though less optimal, can still kind of recur if I just start hitting lands to filter draws to keep feeding survival if you have to. But yeah, it's pretty board state matchup specific, but it's tough. It's a lot of times when I'm doing it, I don't feel like I'm sequencing it right, and sometimes, you know, it seems pretty straightforward depending on the match.
So, with Gigapede, because you have one copy of Squee in your 75, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you ever find yourself that you already had a Squee in the graveyard, but you like wanted to get more card advantage, so you would fetch like Gigapede and then like discard a land so that you're able to have more creatures, or does it not
Yep.
really come up?
Yeah, no, that has come up, and Gigapede has been like sneaky good too. Like, obviously it's like it's good there, but not great, especially where he's running like Decree of Justice. Like, I feel like I'm kind of just time walking if I just like get it back, cast it for 5, try to get it to stick, then following turn attack, soldier,
Yeah.
rinse and repeat. But
It's a lot of work for that Gigapede to do it. Yeah.
but against some matchups, you know, they just can't really deal with it. It's like inevitably they'll run out of just regular dudes to throw in front of it.
Yep.
But yeah, you can kind of be definitely a toolbox. Like I said, without a survival too, you draw the Colossus or Triskelion. You can get them in the yard if you have like Welder up. So it opens some interesting things up.
So, do you have new innovations for the Welder survival archetype in mind, or are you gonna go back to the drawing board and adjust anything, or?
Yeah, I mean, it was like I obviously I love the Naya or your like kind of typical build, you know. And I thought that I would go kind of like 500 at best in this event because I was just trying to test it out because I kept, like I said, it's not you know, my creation.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept saying like I'm gonna play it one of these days just to try it to say that I did. And I thought I was really gonna miss white, but throughout the course of it, it wasn't super relevant. And having the Burning Wish, access to like Pyroclasm, probably won me the most games out of like all the rounds. Just having access to it in game 1, and Reverent Silence. So I don't know.
Okay.
We'll check it out.
Lester, do you have any questions or anything you want to add? I think you're still muted.
Yeah. Not about the survival deck. I'm wondering how you would feel about the prohibit instead of mana leak in the blue-white deck.
I've never played with it. Mana Leaks has been really good to me, and the games I boarded out, it's obviously for more concrete counter spells. I don't know. The card that I absolutely lose to the most, besides like Black Vise, is Armageddon, and I'd rather leave 2 mana I'd rather be able to counter it for 2 mana than 4. I think. Like the games where Mana Leak's dead is like Control Mirrors, and Prohibit's obviously better in those. But I think I don't run into as many of those matchups. I like Mana Leak a lot more. I think I'm gonna. I think it'll like Mana Leak, Prohibit, and 1 Teferi's Response. Just like diversify all of them. I don't know.
Yeah, that's all the questions I really have at this point. So I guess if either of you want to take an opportunity to say anything before we say goodbye.
I'd like to apologize for everybody who had to watch that. I know that my deck is miserable, but these guys are good commentators, so I hope they made it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I have fun commentating for the blue white. I know. I just kind of made up the life totals. Like, I kind of distracted that. I'm like, at least it's a matchup where it's not like really that important. It's a
yeah. Yeah, it was after game 1, my paper, like, there was a bunch of life total changes, but we were still at 20-20. I was like, I don't know.
We still finished the game at 20. Just
people
thanks to everybody. It was a fun time as always, and just good to play Premodern, obviously, and just look forward to more.
Oh my God, these comments. David Villain era is just his whole life. You're not wrong. You're actually not wrong. But cool. Yeah, I appreciate you for running the event, and I will see you next time, man.
Yeah, we'll talk about scheduling for your next match. So we'll see you soon again, David.
David, good luck in the rest, and
I
again,
appreciate
guys,
it, man.
thank you for putting this on.
Yep.
See you at
Cory. And, all right, and we'll say goodbye for now, players. Thank you, Lester. And I are going to wrap things up.
Cool. Have a good one.
See you.
Have a good one, guys. Just gotta point out that I was right on my picks.
On your prediction, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think seeing it in action, and I think Cory kind of said the same thing. Is he felt like he had a better shot in the way it kind of played out. It just didn't feel like he could really muster all the resistance that David had. So yeah, we'll see a Landstill deck advancing. There is another Landstill deck in the top 8, so we'll see. That is Brian Selden. I think he's playing against Will Hurst, so that it will be Landstill against Sly. And then
Reckless
our other matchup.
It's not just Sly, it's Reckless.
It's Reckless Sly.
It is Reckless Sly.
Yep.
Yeah. Big difference.
Then the other decks, I can't even remember what they are now. We'll have to figure it out. So, Lester, I want to thank you for jumping in the booth and doing commentary. It's always fun to hang out and do this with you. I want to thank everyone who's able to tune in and watch it live and who chats. Thank you all the follows that we got and any subscribers. Thank you. But we'll be back shortly. I think we might be playing a match tomorrow and then I think one of the other quarterfinals is going to be next Tuesday. I think that's what we're looking for a schedule. That's Michael Arnold, who's on Elves, and Goblins is the other one. So more classic Premodern
Classics.
So yeah, still more quarterfinals for the Spring Fling, and then we'll be doing the semis and the finals as well. So a lot more Spring Fling action to catch in, and then we'll also get these videos up on YouTube. So if you didn't see them live, you're able to watch them there. But want to thank everyone for the support, and that's all I need to say. Do you want to say anything, Lester, before we go?
No, we're good.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, everyone, and until next time, take care.
Have a good one.